Okay, finally we have Paul Smith. Paul is a software engineer who recently helped with the HealthCare.gov tech surge. Paul is a veteran software engineer, and he co-founded everyblock.com and was the deputy director of technology at the Democratic National Committee during President Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. So please welcome Paul Smith.
Thanks. Afternoon, everyone. I'm the token guy in jeans today. And, we all knew that HealthCare.gov almost blew up on the launch pad. But I'm here to tell my story about how we actually got it to launch. So this is the last photo I took as a civilian. On October 16th, 2013, HealthCare.gov had launched 15 days prior. And this is of the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. And I had been wandering around the city with my co-founders of my now former startup, and we were raising money for our startup. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but I actually got one of those "your country needs you" phone calls, like in a cheesy Nick Cage movie. And I took the phone call, and on the voice on the other end of the line was that of Todd Park, the U.S. Chief Technology Officer in the White House. And Todd didn't really have to make a case to me. I knew what the stakes were. I knew what the consequences of HealthCare.gov not succeeding for the fate of health reform. And he told me about a plan to bring in expert technologists from outside of government and go directly into the heart of the HealthCare.gov project and figure out what was going on and try to fix it. I agreed immediately, and I flew home back east. I'm from Baltimore, and got to work. I thought maybe I'd spend a couple of days, a week or so at the most, maybe issue a report, make some suggestions. And I think the reason I got the call was, like was mentioned, I co-founded a startup called everyblock.com, which was a hyperlocal news site that was acquired by MSNBC.com. And I was also the deputy director of technology at the DNC during the 2012 campaign. I built get out the vote tools like a polling place locator, things that got a lot of high traffic. And so I've come from the startup world, come from kind of high traffic consumer-facing websites. That's what I built. And this is a photo of the first day of the tech surge. This is Friday, October 18th at 3 in the morning in the Roosevelt Room of the West Wing. And these are my co-tech surgers, Gabe Burt, Ryan Pinchadstrom, Greg Gershman. We also added Mikey Dickerson, Brian Holcomb, Mike Abbott was helping us from afar. But this was really these are the faces of people who are quickly dawning on them that they're not going home anytime soon. And somebody asked us that first day, what group are you with? And we didn't want to say the White House. Because we didn't want to kind of throw our weight around like that. So I think one of us said, we're the Adhoc team. And that kind of stuck. And we came from diverse backgrounds, but we were all kind of from the same ilk, which was Silicon Valley startup world. We'd built big, high-traffic, consumer-facing technologies. And I think we knew what it was like to build a site like HealthCare.gov. And so we dropped everything we were doing. We moved to Northern Virginia, and we spent the next 2.5 months working 16-hour days, 7 days a week to turn the site around. I'm not done yet. I haven't even started. What we found that first day was the site was really failing. It was down more than half the time. Response times, the time it took for you to click on the page and get a response could be 8 seconds on average. And I mean, you know, when you use a website, you're not going to sit around and wait for 8 seconds. It could be as long as 2 minutes or more in some cases. The industry average for a retail website is more like half a second or less. The error rate was very high. There were just a lot of serious problems with the site. And one of the first things that we realized was there wasn't good information about the site. All those statistics I just cited to you, we had to discover ourselves. People couldn't really tell us exactly how bad things were. We installed some monitoring tools to kind of give us that information on the very first night we were there. And what we found was a very complex website. There was dozens of contractors and vendors. There's multiple government agencies, external services like the Digital Services Hub and all the integrations that have to happen because of that. It was a complicated integrated website, and it had all of the challenges that a big integrated website project has. That's a photo of the US CTO kissing Greg Gershman on the head. And the reason he's kissing Greg on the head is we've just had our first big breakthrough. So on day 5 of the surge, we had diagnosed a problem with the database, and we made a configuration change that took response times from 8 seconds on average, like I mentioned before, to 2 seconds. So still a long way to go, but much better than what we had originally found. And that was kind of an elation moment for us because we realized that we could fix the technology. It gave us some confidence. And we made a few other improvements like that in those first few days in the week, but what we quickly came to realize is that we weren't moving fast enough. We weren't executing on these changes that needed to happen critically fast enough. And further, the White House was asking us, what is your confidence level? Can this thing be fixed? Can it be fixed? How confident are you that it could be fixed in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks, in 6 weeks, or ever? And we really had to dig deep and think about that question. And we realized that, yes, we could fix the technology, but we really had to change the pace of execution. And with that, we came up with the war room. In the war room, that's a photo of a honey badger attacking a snake an Ethernet cable in the shape of a snake. And October 24th, 2013, that was the first day of the war room. And what was the war room? The war room was, oh, I'm sorry. There you go. The war room was a permanently staffed room in one of the contractors' buildings that had representation from all of the major stakeholders in the project. Every vendor, every contractor, CMS, external service providers. It was permanently staffed. We had twice daily stand-up meetings where we discussed what we called the production weather report, what had happened in production with the website since the last time we met. And we discussed a running list of priority issues that needed to be addressed. And it was a place for real-time decision-making. This is a photo of the first war room stand-up meeting. It was a place for real-time decision-making. And believe it or not, this was the first time that many of these contractors and vendors had ever talked to each other directly without going through elaborate chains of command. We just put all of that kind of nonsense of hierarchy aside and said, let's solve problems together because it's critical and we don't have time to go through the normal process. And one of the things that we realized was that we could fix it in 6 weeks' time, And we gave a high level of confidence to that number. And why did we say 6 weeks? Well, this is a photo of Jeff Zients, who I think everybody knows here, a White House veteran who kind of led the recovery effort from CMS. We realized that, so 6 weeks from the point of mid-October brought us to December 1st. If folks remember, December 15th was the initial deadline for the January 1st, the earliest you could get ACA coverage. That was later revised to December 23rd. We knew that if we said, okay, it will be fixed by December 15th, and then everybody comes to the site on December 15th, like expecting the site to be working, coming for the deadline, that we'd have no breathing room. So by making it December 1st, we gave ourselves some padding. It was kind of a smart play to give ourselves a chance to make any last-minute adjustments we needed before the end of the year. And so November was all about execution. We had the war room process in place. It wasn't a silver bullet, but it gave us a process by which we could coordinate more effectively, more efficiently, and we rallied people to it. It was well received. People liked the fast pace of decision making, and we used the month of November to both prioritize critical fixes and new features that needed to be developed before the rush of people came back at the end of the year, and to improve our hardware capacity, make sure we have enough servers to handle the load. And I want to give credit to Ryan Panchadsaram and Meena Shung, who really brought all of these disparate groups of developers together, and CMS as well, and had them all agree on the things that needed to be fixed. And this was all happening kind of in a surreal political environment that we tried not to pay attention to, but one time when it did intrude was when Todd, who is really kind of like our field commander, he was there at our side every day, was subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee and was taken away from us to be sequestered for preparation for his appearance for several days. And then the day of the hearing, Representative Lankford here held up his iPad and said, "I've been trying to create an account on HealthCare.gov all morning, and I click this button, nothing happens." And Todd said, "Well, thank you very much, Mr. Representative. Will you please follow up with me after the meeting? I'd like to understand more about that." And back at the office, we, were kind of curious about that whole thing, and we really dug into it. We couldn't initially figure out what was going wrong, but we realized it was affecting thousands of people trying to sign up for an account. And this was an example of one of the times when the tech surge and the war room process really showed what it was capable of doing. We diagnosed the bug. We worked diligently through the late hours to come up with a fix and get it deployed. And we knew that the president was speaking the following day about HealthCare.gov, and whenever he spoke, our traffic would go through the roof. So we knew that we had to fix the bug before that, and because of the pace of execution that we had sped up due to the war room, we were able to do that. And then December was really about managing peak demand. So much like a electrical utility, we knew that there were peak demand times when traffic was so high that even with all the fixes and capacity improvements we had made, we might not be able to handle the traffic. So we came up with tools like an email queue that would let you type in your email address when traffic was very high, and we would bring you back when in evening hours and off-peak hours to ensure that you could get through. We also had kind of an anonymous shopping experience that we called the premium estimation tool that let you see plans and estimated monthly premiums without having to go through the full sign-up process. And we also cleared up major bottlenecks and capacity problems with our servers as well. And December 1st and 2nd, we refer to December 1st as vast majority Sunday because that's when we said that the site would be working for the vast majority of users. And this is a photo of Todd in the operations center as on December 2nd, we actually had our biggest traffic date to date as everybody came back, the press included, to see was HealthCare.gov fixed. And we happened to have our biggest hardware breakthrough so far, and we brought response times down to close to half a second. So we were really well positioned for the big surge in traffic at the end of the year. And as December 23rd approached, we saw traffic begin to spike. And this is a picture of Mark Furlat, who was one of the tech surgers who came on towards the end. We referred to each other as co-pilots. We were really directing the site that day, managing the queue, throttling traffic to the site, and watching the enrollment numbers and the traffic numbers on the site to make sure that the site stayed up for most people and that we could let people come back in the evening and enroll. And for a website that enrolled 6 people the first day that it launched, we enrolled over 100,000 on December 23rd. So what did the Adhoc team accomplish? I think we brought a sense of urgency to the recovery effort. We brought fresh eyes, experience, expertise with building large-scale websites. We led by example. We didn't just parachute in, write a report and then leave. We were there alongside the people who were actually building and developing the site. And I think we elevated the role of the engineer in the eyes of management and other stakeholder leadership. We were making decisions about the fate of the site alongside them, and they saw that what capable software engineers were able to do. So most of us rolled off the project from the original tech surge at the end of the year. We had been working for 2 months straight without a break, but the project continued, of course. There was the March 31st deadline that everyone wanted to be ready for. There were still capacity problems, critical bugs to be fixed, functionality to be developed. So many of us came back for those final days of the end of the open enrollment period. And this is a photo minutes before the midnight deadline. And we had our biggest enrollment day to date, over 2 times what December 23rd was. So here's where I get on my soapbox a little bit. I think what people should take away from what the tech surge did, there are a few things. One is expectations for government services. That's what really this all boils down to. We expect government services to be as good. We expect us to pull out your phone and log on to a website and get your transaction done just as easily as you would any consumer retail website. So government needs to recognize that there's only going to be more HealthCare.govs, not fewer. Citizens are going to demand that the services they provide have quality user experiences every bit as good as in the retail space. The solution has to match the problem. One of the problems here was the architecture of the site that was built was vastly different from the architecture of the kind of site that it really was, which is a high-traffic, retail-like business. What was built was more like enterprise software that couldn't handle the traffic. We really need to cut out the middlemen. We need to take policy people at CMS and at other government agencies and put them directly with engineers. Have them sit down together and come up with solutions together. There's no reason to build a set of requirements over here and a project plan over here and try to put them together. You need to work together to come up with what you're going to do, and policy people they're the ones who know. They know exactly what it is that should be built, so engineers and them need to sit down together. And do boring things. Don't pick, for big, high-traffic, high-profile, high-stakes projects, use proven technologies. Just because you go to a IT conference and you see, a vendor, a good presentation, don't just pick it because they make a good sales pitch. And do your work, investigate it. Are you going to have the resources to really support that technology once it's in production? Just a couple more points and then I'll wrap it up. lower the barrier to entry to small firms and startups. There are a lot of companies and people in the startup world who want to help work on these big government problems. But it is very difficult from a contracting point of view, from a access point of view, to get in the door. I think government should really think about what its core competencies are and what it should be offering to the public and focus on those. Government is really a monopoly on certain things. If you think about HealthCare.gov, it's a monopoly on the core marketplace functionality, the qualified health plan set, the tax payment, the credit, a few things like that. It should focus on those core services and let third parties bring the good consumer experiences on top of that. I really believe this to my core, but I think technology teams need to be small, because big teams, really large teams, hundreds of people working on a tech project, that is doomed to failure. I've seen it over and over and over again. Small teams, 5, 10, 15 people, can get much more accomplished than large groups of people where responsibilities are too disparate and dispersed. And I think we need to radically simplify. There was just too much bureaucracy and complexity everywhere in terms of site architecture to processes and coordination all over the board, from technology to people. So, we kind of thought of ourselves as like the SWAT team that, if this mission had gone bad, we'd have been disavowed and nobody would ever know who we were. But fortunately, it turned out okay, and we were fortunate enough to have a meeting with the president in I believe that's the mural room, about a month ago. It was a nice thing. He recognized the work and the sacrifice of time, and especially time away from our families that we had made. And that's all I have to say. There's much more to say.
Thank you so much, Paul. We've got a couple questions, and then we'll wrap things up. But I can almost picture the scene. You're riding in on the helicopter. The A-Team music is playing. It's the Adhoc team coming into the war room. What's the response from everybody else in the room? They've been working on this for a long time, and all of a sudden they see this group come in to save the day. Was it resistance? Were you embraced?
We were really nervous about that. One of the first things that Todd told us was we needed high IQ as well as high EQ, that we couldn't go in and just blow up the work that was being done. We really needed to meld in with the teams, understand what they were working on, provide sort of wind to their backs. And frankly, I think people were grateful for the expertise and experience in this problem that we brought. And they saw that as soon as we rolled up our sleeves and were trying to fix these problems, and the long hours we put in, and that we weren't just there to assign blame, that we were really there to solve the problem, they rallied to it. And ultimately, they were the ones who did the work. We wrote very little code ourselves. We were mostly trying to support the people who were actually building HealthCare.gov.
That's great. So open enrollment is coming up again. Is HealthCare.gov ready? It's a tough question, right?
It's vastly in a better place than what it was certainly in October, and even since the end of open enrollment. They are focused, of course, on some back-end functionality that still needed to be fleshed out. Obviously, the small business portal shop is coming online as well. But if you think about the time, open enrollment ended on April 1st. The next one starts November 15th. That's not a long runway to do a lot of big changes. So the system that crossed the finish line in April is largely the one that's going to start at the starting line on November 15th. But there are a few other things that I think are encouraging, like people may have heard of Application 2.0. This is a simplified application experience for eligibility for people who don't have complicated financial assistance needs. So we think that could be a high percentage of people who are signing up. Maybe they're unmarried, or they don't have complicated taxes, or so they should be able to go through a simplified flow that takes some of the load off of the core system, and it should be a better overall user experience. And I think there'll be a few other things like that provide a better user experience, and at the same time kind of take some of the heavyweight transactions off of the main system.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and thank you to all of our speakers.
Thanks.
So I think my last final comment is, I think, we've definitely learned there, embrace your technology and data teams early and often so that you don't have to get an ad hoc team to come in and a war room set up and try to save the day after the fact. So thank you again, everyone, and thank you to Chini, Matt, and Paul.